Thanks everyone for joining today. We're very pleased to have you here for the webinar, Building a Canada-wide Cooperative Research Network, Our Tools, Our Resources, and Our Plan. And as everyone, if you haven't yet done so, to press *2 to mute your line. And I wanted to indicate to you, if you see there in your menu from GoToWebinar, there should be an option for chatting or raising your hand and asking questions. And you can go ahead and use that feature throughout if you have any challenges with the technology. So the host for today's webinar, we've actually got two hosts. The first is the Measuring the Cooperative Difference Research Network, which is a pan-Canadian network of co-op practitioners and academics that have been funded by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council from 2010 until 2015 to undertake a variety of complementary research projects that explore the social, environmental, and economic impact of cooperatives on Canadians and their communities. This webinar is also co-hosted by the Steering Committee for the Cooperative Research Project, which has been established by the Rural and Cooperative Secretariat of the federal government and managed in partnership between the Canadian Cooperative Association and the Conseil canadien de la coopération et de la mutualité. The Steering Committee members for this project include John Anderson from the Canadian Cooperative Association, Marie-Joëlle Brassard from the Conseil québécois coopération mutualité, Denise Guy from the Ontario Cooperative Association, soon to be the Executive Director of the Canadian Cooperative Association, Lou Hammond-Kettleton from the University of Saskatchewan and the ICA Research Committee, André Leclerc from the Université de Moncton, and Anne-Marie McGuinness, who will be speaking with us today from the Rural and Cooperative Secretariat. So under this project, there have been three goals. Today we'll focus in on the research network aspect of this project, but there's also been surveys distributed in which we've established the current research priorities for cooperatives. So we've surveyed about 50 cooperative researchers from academia as well as folks from cooperative organizations. And the third portion of this project was also looking at establishing a portal for sharing co-op research. So as I mentioned, the three goals. First was to determine the priorities for current co-op research. The second is to establish a portal of co-op research for easy access to research by the cooperative sector as well as researchers. And the third is to create a space for dialogue and collaboration, which is why we're meeting here today. I wanted to let people know that we're also doing this webinar in French on December 2nd at 10 a.m. Eastern. So you'll see through the Measuring the Cooperative Difference Research Network, we also have three webinars coming up. We do it during the academic year, September, October, November, and then also January, February, and March. So you'll see there the upcoming ones, but I encourage you to visit cooperativedifference.coop for more information. And I wanted to highlight as well that our February webinar has not yet been determined, so if you have a research topic that you would like to share or a co-op sector topic that you would like to share, or have explored during one of our webinar series, then please do contact me. This is Erin Hancock speaking. My contact information will be shared at the end. So to run through what it is that we're doing here today, we're very excited to encourage us to have this opportunity to share for developing an online cooperative research network. And we have Anne-Marie McGuinness from the Secretariat here sharing with us. We also will be looking at an overview of existing co-op research so that folks can have better access to some of the resources that are already available on the web. Then we'll explore 4 specific options that we have for online tools for how we may develop an online network that could better help us in collaboration among researchers. And then we'll have a discussion and hear from you. So at the midpoint of this webinar, I will be prompting you to unmute your phone, and at that time you can share on behalf of yourself or on behalf of the organization that you may be here representing and contribute to this discussion, because that's really our goal for today, is to hear from you. So I'd like to now invite Anne-Marie McGuinness to share. She is the manager of the Cooperative Policy and Research Unit for the Rural and Cooperative Secretariat with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. She's going to provide some background on the Secretariat's support of establishing a co-op research network portal.
Thanks, Erin. Good afternoon, everyone. In terms of just the beginning, this is really phase 2 of some work that the Secretariat had funded in 2009 At that point, it was the Cooperative Research Agenda Project that we'd funded, which was looking at kind of the past, present, and future of co-op research in Canada. Without going into it in too much detail, certainly one of the things that came out of that, and there's a lot of things that came out of it, one of the things related to this project in particular, the second phase, was it really confirmed the need for more information sharing, a place for more knowledge dissemination and coordination amongst co-op researchers. And it also confirmed the readiness or the desire for different co-op researchers and co-op stakeholders to work together towards those ends. So out of that came this particular project, which we funded out of the Research and Knowledge Development Program. So again, you know, what you'll see today and what we've been working towards is really building a foundation for supporting the development of a network amongst co-op stakeholders so that we can better coordinate research that's happening, share information, and work more together. The goal really is a sustainable bilingual network, so working across both languages, and a network, while this will help establish the foundation, working towards building something that will last and we can keep it going, the broader we, long term. So I don't want to say too much more than that. I'll hand it back to you, Erin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So what you can see here is the website that gives you a bit more detail on that information, and we'll relate back to that in just a moment. So what we had said in our description of this webinar is that we wanted to start by saying where is it where we already are in terms of sharing co-op research. And so what I wanted to do was briefly run through some of these. Now we've also got this in a PDF on the website, which I'll show you how to access in just a couple of minutes. So you'll see that there's quite a number of resources that are already existing that share co-op research in some way. So often these websites are showing us current research that's recently been published. They're telling us about new collaborations and partnerships around research. They're sharing some funding opportunities that may be available. They're telling us about student programs, certificates, master's programs, undergraduate programs that are available. And they're also giving opportunities for publishing, sharing journals, and that sort of thing. So as you can see, these are just links and websites that are related to universities. So one that I tend to visit quite a bit is through the Center for the Study of Cooperatives at the University of Saskatchewan. This is a very active website. I'll just show this one briefly because on this website you'll see that not only will you find out about what's going on at the center, but it's a very excellent website for finding out what's going on in the broader research community and also in the broader cooperative community. And if you see at the top, there are options to be able to link to this site and get updates when there has been changes through an RSS feed, and also you can access it through Twitter, and they also have e-newsletters. So, and you can see that there's a number of opportunities to read publications, and this site is well stocked and well updated as well. So you can just see this briefly. Again, I'll show you where you can get this list by PDF. But we just wanted to start with what is it that is already available on the web? Where are people currently going when they're looking for co-op research? So now moving on to associations and partnerships around cooperative research. So again, these websites tend to be a bit more of a mix. They're not all necessarily academic. There's a lot of practitioner involvement in many of these. For example, at the very top here, you'll see the Measuring the Cooperative Difference Research Network, which is the host of this webinar today. And you'll see that we have, for example, the Canadian Cooperative Association, some of the resources that are published through the association. And then you'll see it a little bit broader. So for example, here where you see the journals for the Association of Nonprofit and Social Economy Research, this is not just focusing on cooperatives, but you can find a number of cooperative articles here. They also have broader social economy, such as the nonprofit sector, the charitable sector, voluntary sector, that type of thing. But for the most part, if you're looking for more of a mix between the academic and practitioner-based resources, these are some of the places that people are going. You'll also see that we've included Syriac, which is a Francophone resource as well. And then we looked at two other areas, or two other options for accessing research, and one of them is through the Rural and Cooperative Secretariat, their publications, because they, of course, do an annual survey of cooperatives across Canada, and through that are able to report on various sectoral updates for the year. They have case studies, research reports. You also see a lot related to public policy here. And then we wanted to just highlight a couple of other resources. Now, this, of course, is not an exhaustive list. When we start looking more into the co-op sector, we know that a lot of the provincial associations in Canada also provide a number of reports. They've done surveys. They have a lot that they're sharing as well. But as far as looking from a research point of view, we try to cover sort of the main ones here today. But just to highlight a couple others, the Cooperative Development Info Service is a resource for people that are looking to start cooperatives. And then we've got Cooperative News Briefs, which covers both research and broader sectoral developments on a bi-weekly basis. So I'll show you actually how to access the PDF. So this is the PDF here that lists the resources that I just showed via PowerPoint. And if you go to this website, you can see the URL there at the top. This is the project that we're working through today. And you can see if you go down to something that says, on the right here, that says other websites and research, with research and information. At the very top, you'll see cooperative research resources, and that is where you will get the link to this PDF that has all of those resources, so you can go ahead and read through some of those yourself, maybe sign up for the RSS feed, and so that's it right there. And you'll see my contact information at the bottom. So if you do feel like there are some major resources that are missing from this list, then we would like to, of course, add them. Okay. Now, when we were looking at establishing a network through this project, we've actually surveyed. We've received 49 surveys from both French and English academics and practitioners within the co-op sector. And so what we were looking at was, as I mentioned before, research priorities. What are people thinking that we need to be focusing our research on? But also, are people interested in having a more collaborative approach here in Canada towards cooperative research? And what would that look like? And so it was a resounding yes, there's certainly interest. What people have indicated is that they would like to have more a more streamlined approach to research. They would like to have increased communication amongst researchers and increased collaboration. So a number of people said, you know, sometimes they start a study or start doing research and don't realize that there are other people that are also in the startup phase of a similar type of project. So there's no publications yet that you would find. So it would be great to have a resource in which they could hear about that earlier on in the process. They'd also like to see an inventory of research, which we have now established, and we'll show in just a moment. And that given all the sites that we've just shown you, and there's many, many others as well, people wanted something that was more streamlined, one central place they could go to where they could hear about what was going on in the research world, what new grants are available, what types of events are coming up, and some of the most recent publications. And people also had indicated that they really do feel that there is a strong importance in all of the face-to-face meetings that are happening around cooperative research in Canada, such as the Canadian Association for Studies in Cooperation conference that happens annually. So there was a real, there was a large response that was saying there is value in that, and certainly amongst the cooperative community that it's important that people are meeting face-to-face and that an online network would not take the place of something like that, but that it is important that we're not just hearing about what's going on once a year, that people really do want to stay informed on a regular basis. so it would be great to have something on an ongoing feed. People also mentioned it may be helpful to distribute information through social media and have the option to receive feeds so that they can get updates. They don't have to remember to go to a website, that they can also get feeds if they'd like to their email that reminds them that there is something new that's been posted. And also people said we wouldn't like something directly as a listserv. It may get too messy if there's 100 people trying to have different conversations through a listserv, but rather to have a website that people can choose to receive a feed from or not. So in the course of our steering committee looking at how it is we can employ these suggestions from folks, we thought about some principles, and one of them is that we certainly want this portal to be in English and French. And we want to get some feedback today from you folks on how it is that we can best do that. We also want to be able to create something that can be sustained, so not just something where we have a lot of energy and excitement right now, but that we can have something where we have a committee together where we're constantly feeding into it and keeping things evergreen. And so that's why we've looked into some options. And even though there have been a lot of websites we've been looking to for great advice and great examples of what's been working as far as sharing research online and having collaboration online, we wanted to share 4 briefly with you today. And you'll see it here, the Cooperative Research Portal, the Cooperative Learning Center, and the Knowledge Atlas. And then we have Alessandro here, who will be sharing with you the Canadian Rural Research Network, which we felt was an excellent example. So what you see on your screen here right now is the Canadian Cooperative Association website. And within this website, on the top tab, Information and Resources, if you go down to Cooperative Research, you will get linked to this. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. Cooperative Research. You'll get linked directly to this portal that we've established under the supervision of the steering committee for this project. And what we've done is establish the research into 6 different areas: cooperative model, types of cooperatives, population groups, cooperative development, people-centered economy, and governance and management. And we admit that this is not necessarily an exhaustive list. These are the most recent publications that have been submitted to us through surveys, and we're still completing some of the citations that have been submitted to make sure that we're representing everything accurately. But if you, for example, click on one of these, you will see a number of resources that have been, many of them that have been published within the last 2 years. Some of them from the sector, from cooperative associations, but many of them from academics as well. And you'll see this list is in both French and English, so any resources that were published in French are shown in French, and any that were published in English are shown in English there. So this is sort of the first step in what we wanted to do, to say this is a portal, this is a space where research is being posted, but as you can see, it's not yet interactive. It's basically some place that people can come to access information, but not to feed into. So then we looked at the Cooperative Learning Center. And the Cooperative Learning Center was established back in, I think originally in 2006, through the British Columbia Institute for Cooperative Studies at the time, in partnership with the International Labour Organization, and also with the ICA, actually Human Resources Committee. And so at the time it was looked at to be a space similar to what it is that we're talking about today. So they wanted a place where people could come for information, where it could be an HR center as well, so people could learn about co-ops if they're new to co-ops, that youth could get involved and students could enter the cooperative sector through learning about co-ops in this way. And there's also been an option for being able to contribute as well and being able to post. You can sign in if you've been given privileges in that way. And so this was a site that was established, and there was much support at the time, and we're not sure of exactly the reasons at the time, but it's not been active, very active since, even though it's an excellent model and something, of course, that we're talking about employing today. We wanted to look at that as an example of something that was established and something we can look to but how do we invigorate and breathe life into a project like this? And in this case, it was looked at as an international model, so there's an option to translate this into Spanish as well. But of course, what we're looking at today is something that's Canada-wide, looking at French and English as the main languages of operation. We also wanted to highlight the Knowledge Atlas. And this is, if people are familiar, this is a cooperative in New Brunswick that has established this online site, which serves a variety of purposes. One of them is looking at, they say, how is it that we can link information in a way that that makes sense to people. So I will show you an image of how it is. If you post to this site, if you submit a blog post, then it will link your post to other posts that have been put in here. And you also, I should share that they have an option for people to share their profile and also their co-op's profile. You can see some co-ops that are listed here. So this is specifically social media information sharing. It is the new Wikipedia and Facebook and LinkedIn and everything else, all from a co-op lens, and it was a co-op that established this site. So as you can see, at this point in time, there are not a whole lot of users on the site, but it is free to use, and so this is an option that we were looking at as well. But I just wanted to show you an image of what it looks like when people post. So as you can see, they have this option to show a tree, and you can see how certain blog posts relate to others. So in this case, it's looking at animal ethics. It also relates to business ethics, human rights issues, and so the conversation can branch off in one way, or it could go down more specifically on that same topic. So we like this idea of the images and how people could see how blog posts were linked as opposed to just having a list of all the posts in chronological order. And then lastly, we looked at the Canadian Rural Research Network as being an amazing example for something exactly mirrored to what it is we've been talking about doing. And so I've got Alessandro Alessia here today who will be sharing with us. So Alessandro has been the national coordinator of the Canadian Rural Research Network since it was established in 2009, and he is presenting today in that capacity. He's had a major role in the development of the network and the design of its online application, so blog, email, updates, social media, and the like. He's also, in his day job, the unit head with the Rural Research Group in the Agricultural Division at Statistics Canada, and he has conducted research on agricultural and rural development issues for the past decade. So I'll invite him to now walk us through this website, which we see as being a great example for something we may want to employ for the cooperative sector.
Well, thank you very much, Erin. Thanks for this opportunity to share the experience of the Canadian Rural Research Network. Of course, I will be very biased in my presentation. I'll be presenting all the nice features. There are also some limitations to the approach that we took. But again, I'll just highlight some of the advantages, and then we can discuss about the disadvantage. Well, how did we got started? In fact, in a very informal way, with some conversation between myself and my former boss, Ray Bowman, about the need to strengthen our information system and the rural research community. And then the conversation was extended to the Canadian Rural Revitalization Foundation, which is an organization, a well-established organization that in fact in the past was involved in some networking development. They had a national rural research network that was sort of sunsetting because of funding. So we basically proposed them to revitalize the network with a different shape, a different name, and a different approach. And the main difference in the approach was that we tried to do this without any funding, but just with voluntary time. This is an advantage, and of course is also a limitation. So you might, if you have also some funding, you might also get some considerable. You would have considerable advantage as well. But the idea was to try to put together again this network using essentially voluntary time, and this basically set also some constraints in terms of the application that we were able to use, because we used only freely available applications. So we use a blog that you see here on this page, which is a blogger page, which can be created freely, and there's no charge for doing that. And then we try to put together an integrated system of communication using emails. So we have a bi-monthly email update that we send now to a list of about 5,000 contacts, and then we use social media. Now, it's important to just emphasize one point. All the information that is disseminated through this media is the same. So the email essentially is used to summarize all the posts that are posted on the blog every 2 months, and the same post would be distributed through our social media, which are Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So you will find the same information. And it's interesting to see that people actually start to use one versus another social media. So right now we have about 500 people subscribing to one or another of our social media, which is I think quite an achievement. And there is some overlap, because of course some people would have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, and a LinkedIn account, but in most cases actually people would use one of the social media. How do we get the information together? Well, there is a management committee, again, a group of 10 people that volunteer their time, and it's not a lot of time, and we meet every second month before sending out the email update, and we discuss about developments and new ideas, and we put together all the information in a draft email, which is circulated to all the 30 organizations that are part of the network, and then a week after we send out the email. Now we try to be, again, it's all very informal and sort of a loose type of organization. We try to be, have set some deadline in terms of sending out emails, but sometime, like for instance during the summer, we send an email that is going 4 months, and for this, right now, in fact, we are going to send another email that is going to cover 4 months of information. So the key objective of the network is really to keep people updated about current research outputs, and we did a sort of a classification of research outputs in terms of reports, studies, presentation, podcast, webinars, etc., etc. So all these basically current information. There are limitations in the sense that the system as it is designed, as it is now, doesn't have really the capacity to become an inventory of research, so we don't have that goal. And so again, the key objective is try to keep people connected and informed about current research. Again, I don't want to take too much time. The last point that I would like to make is about the future. I think in my view, one of the main potential for this network is the use of social media. And there's a lot of discussion about the potential of social media. Just yesterday I was at a seminar at Statistics Canada about the use of social media in the public services. So there is a lot of interest in this topic and a lot of attention, and I think also a lot of potential for this type of networking. I can just show you the LinkedIn account that we created. Is a LinkedIn group, and there start to be some use, and you have an example. In fact, just 2 discussions that were started yesterday. One about a job posting, and another about research. Well, it's not a research; it's actually a rural related event that is going to take place in BC. So this is the type of information I will hope to see more and more in the future, and a growing use of the social media as a way to disseminate and keep people connected and share information. So I think what we'll try to do in the future is try to strengthen the use of social media for the purpose of the network. And I stop here. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you. I think what we really wanted to highlight through having Alessandro share with us the site is that they have a number of ways in which people can access information. So again, like the Saskatchewan Centre site, you see that people can subscribe through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, have an RSS feed, or they can simply visit the website when they want to find out about new things. So one thing that we also enjoyed about this website was how often it was updated. So at least twice a week there are new posts to this site, thanks to this voluntary group of folks from various research groups and various rural groups that have put forward a volunteer to spend a little bit of time doing this. And for receiving emails when people have something they want to share, and then going ahead and posting what it is that they receive. You also notice that there is a news scan, so an automatic feed that goes onto this website about rural news and that type of thing. So that's extracted straight from Google. And then you'll also see that there are links to publications, data, and then there is a Twitter scan over here on the left that you can see, which is basically an automatic search of Twitter when someone tags something with rural. So, and there are a lot of more features. So you can use it in as much complexity or as simplified as you'd like. If you just want to look at events coming up, then that's very easy to do. But if you want to engage in some of these other social media aspects of the site, you also can. So at this point, now that we feel like we've sort of given the foundation for what it is that we already have in terms of dissemination of co-op research in Canada, we wanted to turn it over to you to see what it is that that you're all getting from this discussion as far as the options that we have in establishing together what's the most ideal system for disseminating, sharing, collaborating on co-op research would be. So I'd ask if you'd like to contribute or offer an idea at this time to press *2. If we can start perhaps with the question, how do researchers currently connect actually and virtually? So what aspects of connecting for people would people want more of? So if people are connecting at conferences, what is it that they're sharing when they're meeting there? And if they're meeting online, what is it that they're wanting to share about when they're online? Are they collaborating on research? Are they sharing funding opportunities? How does that look? So if we could start with that discussion. You also see the other questions there if you'd like to contribute as well. So press *2 to unmute your line, and we can start. Go ahead.
Hi, Erin. This is Daryl Reed.
Hi,
my experience of how people collaborate, I'm not sure how widespread it is, but it tends to work a lot in terms of two dynamics. A lot of it depends who you studied with and what networks you study then. And another depends upon sort of how you're involved in organizations and conference organizations too, so around those things. The other dynamic that comes into play a lot depends upon your institution and your institutional connections, which can be positive or negative dynamic. Because when we do research, especially those of us doing research on co-ops, we're supposed to collaborate a lot, but we also have these institutional obligations we have to uphold. And so it becomes a very tricky thing to get collaboration and to make it clear. So a lot of it is just basic socialization, getting to know people. And so the degree to which a network like this can do this will be very helpful, building confidence among people, as you say, it doesn't replace the other sorts of things. But I think to the degree that you can provide easier access to materials, which you're talking about, that's very good. To the degree that people can get to know each other and interact a little bit more. But the other key part of a network, I think, really has to do with nodes. And so one of the things we've been trying to talk about in CASC is how we draw people in on a more regular basis, so they're just not coming to a conference every year. So I think that's an issue we have to figure out, how we can draw people into nodes where they can organize a little bit more. It won't just happen online. Online allows people to socialize a little bit, but you also need a little bit of structure which tends to come through the nodes, so that if they want to do collaborative research, I think that can facilitate it, especially if you want to draw upon things that you've done already, like developing research agendas, right? Anyway, my thoughts on that.
Daryl, could you elaborate a little bit more on nodes? Do you mean subtopic related nodes or regional nodes of people actually meeting?
Well, I mean by nodes, and they can take different forms. One key form they often take is either institutions, so they can be research centers, but also professional associations, right, which host annual meetings, may have working groups and different other structures like that. So they are sort of are able to draw people in, because often a lot of researchers are somewhat isolated, and they may know individuals, but they're really not brought into, in a systematic way, into teams. They sort of fall into things, as it were. And they may come across somebody who has an idea that's sort of what they're doing, not exactly. They get signed on to a research project, maybe. Instead of having the opportunity, as you're saying before, to have people come together and talk about, what are their research priorities and how they fit in with the sector's research priorities as well. So we've been thinking in CASC how we can do that more systematically, and we will propose something to our membership soon, which is basically some sort of structure where we can have regular meetings between our annual conference, where people can come together and say, okay, for the coming year, we see the basic funding arenas that there are. We know the timeline. And so, again, if the network has all that sort of information available, where you have, your calendar for your cycle of funding, that helps a lot for people. And so they can plan in advance. So they come together and say, okay, it's April, or it's November now. Next year, what are we going to be doing? Okay, and what are the steps that we're going to be doing as an organization, right? Not just as individuals. It's an organization which is thinking about the sector and key areas. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No, that's good. Thank you very much, Daryl. Thanks for getting the discussion started. I'm wondering if we have someone else who's wanting to respond to Daryl or contribute. Okay. I'm wondering if we may be able to hear. Okay, we've got John Anderson here from the Canadian Cooperative Association.
Yeah, well, yes, I mean, I think that the question of nodes is a very important one, and while we want to encourage that, I think that's important, and ways that the network can encourage, meetings happening on various topics. We've also got to find a way of having, cross-node collaboration, and because one of the major things, I would say, in my view, probably the most important block right now in terms of co-op research in Canada is really the question of the two linguistic solitudes as far as research is concerned. And, that exists in a lot of other areas as well, so it's not just around research, but it's particularly, important when we're dealing with co-op research, because often people are researching exactly the same topic in French or in English, and they don't know about the other group that's researching that, and they don't collaborate with them. And so the question is, how do we? I'm not saying that it's an easy thing, but how do we have a site which allows people to know what's happening out there and allows them to begin to interact and to draw on the strengths that people have worked on and have elaborated on in Quebec or in Saskatchewan, and how do we bring that together? And I guess that I would be interested to know a little bit about the Rural Research Network and how because I notice you function in both languages, and how does that work, and how are you able to bridge some of those gaps around language and research?
Well, that, if I can respond right away, I mean, that remains, I think, a substantial limitation also for us. We didn't try to, for instance, we don't have the capacity to translate all the information that is posted. So we either post on French or in English, or if the publication is actually in both languages, so that for most of them, for instance, federal government research papers and publication, then we will have a post that have both languages. But that remains a substantial limitation also for us. Again, in most cases, the working language remains English because it's becoming really prevalent in research, in a research environment. But still, we try to cover as much as we can also the Francophone research. Again, we don't have just the capacity to translate. So what we did, for instance, in the blog and also for the email, some of the sort of fixed structural elements have been translated, but they are appearing in both languages on the same page. And again, this remains a limitation because we don't have really the resource to do all this translation work.
Thank you.
We have one additional small feature that is one of the advantages of using a Google application, which is Blogspot, which is, Google allows you to translate anything that is online. So the translation is, in fact, not perfect. In some cases, it's quite poor, but at least would give you the capacity to have a basic understanding in both languages. And it's actually improving over time, so they're getting better and better in translating. So you can simply click a button and translate the page, all the text that appear on the page in the other language, which is, again, a basic way to address this issue.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else, perhaps from the cooperative sector, who would like to contribute about any of these questions you see here, either this discussion that we're having now about sort of bridging English and French, or about what the value would be, or what would be the best way to access a network like this for someone from the community?
Hi. Yeah, I'm James Law from Truck Renewable Energy Co-op. I actually had a bit of a suggestion just based off some work I've done in the past with other research groups. They used a system called collaborative geomatics, in which researchers would essentially post not only the research topic, but they could draw a geographical space in which that research took place, and they could color code that space according to research topic and tag it. And I think what that facilitated in terms of, well, it facilitated a number of things. First of all, locally allowed you to see who else was in your area doing research, exactly what they're researching, and that outlines potential for collaboration. But in terms of overcoming language barriers, it wasn't initially necessary that we had to translate everything from English to French, because using visual nodes, using colors, we were actually able to communicate initial ideas that way, and then further translation was needed to actually connect the groups, of course. But lastly, from a community perspective, if you open this network up to the public or even students, they're actually able to discover where their interests are occurring on ground level. across the landscape in the regions around them, and that actually made it easier for us to connect with individuals who are interested in doing work. So I know that doesn't address all the issues that we've proposed, but it was one example of a fairly innovative solution I've seen in the past.
Thank you very much, James.
Want to send it around? We sent the link to.
Yeah, James, I'm wondering if you could send me the link to that.
Sure, I can send it.
You know what? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I can give out the name. Sure. The name of the center that does it, I think it used to be called COMAP, which is the Center for Community Mapping. And but yeah, I can send around the link after that.
Thank you very much. And we'll include that on the Measuring the Cooperative Difference Research Network website under Events and Opportunities under webinar information. I noticed that Sharita Ryan has her hand raised. Sharita, would you like to share?
Sure. What I want to address is addressing the portal and, in a way, addressing most of the questions or a lot of the questions that you have on the screen right now. And I want to come at it from some of the reading and research that I've done in terms of online environments and nonprofits, etc. And the three things that I want to highlight are money, people, and time. So that in many ways it looks like you can do a lot online for very little money, as long as you have, really good volunteers, etc. But then what it takes is a lot of time. And so there is a kind of an evolution that goes on in many ways in terms of websites. In that first, the website is very, very information rich, and in some ways you're trying to push the information out to people, but there isn't a lot of interaction. And some people say, well, that's wrong. You really, really have to have a lot of interaction. But I would counter that by saying that really the interaction and the collaboration, let's say online, is really an evolutionary process, the same way it's an evolutionary process on the ground. We don't immediately come to collaborating, with complete strangers. So it takes time to build these portals. I think it's best to take it really, really slowly. If you have unlimited funds or a lot of money and a lot of people who are committed to work on the website, then you can push it much faster. But it will still come down to time and to a process where the portal and the website evolve. So, if I were, to give any kind of advice at all, I would say start slow, start with some decent information going out. Really promote yourself, like get on Twitter and say, not only promote yourself, but promote other people in the area of cooperatives. And sort of build a network where people come back to your site and they contribute to the site. And it, basically I'm saying it's time, money, and people.
Thanks very much, Sharita. Great advice. Annie McKittrick, did you want to share? Annie, if you want to press *2 to unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, Erin. I wanted to make two comments. One was about the French and the English and the ongoing issue on how best to represent papers and research in both languages. I think it's, a fair comment to say is that most people can read some. Most researchers have some basic knowledge of the other language, and if at least an abstract is translated, it goes a long way towards making sure that French papers are accessed by people who only speak English. So if that could be a practice among cooperative research. And the other question I had, have you been talking to Robin Puder and Ian McPherson about the Cooperative Learning Center and where it's at?
Yes, absolutely. We've been talking to them, and their offer has been, if this is some way that we can reconstruct that site in a way that brings traffic and brings new life into it, and that's something they're very interested in supporting. They have identified that there have been some challenges, some major challenges for them in driving traffic to the site and in getting people really invested in it. So we've had numerous conversations with them, but they've been supportive. And the discussion amongst the steering committee and through the folks that we've surveyed has been maybe it wasn't the time in 2006, and maybe now is the time, given that more and more people are involved in sort of, you know, being very comfortable with the web and being a little bit more savvy in using the web and the social media applications as well.
I know in talking with Robin quite a bit in the early years, is part of the attraction was around the development of open source and the ability of everyone to be able to use the site. And I know that creates its own challenges, but it seemed a very attractive way of building a website.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we really enjoyed about the Rural Research Network site, too, is that it's all open source. So the Rural Research Network has offered the co-op movement to give us their entire template for free that they've developed, and that we can sort of reconstruct it in a way, adding co-op specific content and you know, adding the applications we want, removing the applications that we don't. And that in turn, we would then make that site available, that template available for other folks in sort of other parallel research networks or other networks that would like to use something like that. So that's very much a principle that we still want to honor. Thank you, Annie. I'm going to turn it now to David Thompson, and then after that, we'll get Melanie Kahn on the phone. Go ahead, David.
Hi there. Yeah, I just had a comment. One technology that I've used to kind of bridge that more blogging to the social media is called BuddyPress, and it's a WordPress application, which is a blogging software. And this is used by I know one university uses it, is the City University of New York, and they have like an academic commons, which is kind of like a portal, but it's really innovative in how it links blogs, and it links groups and Twitter, Facebook, all to the website. So if somebody updates their blog, it'll automatically pop up on the site, and I think that would kind of help with the lack of content that, you know, we seem to have real problems with in terms of keeping websites up to date.
Great. Thank you very much, David. And Melanie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just wasn't sure I was on. Well, I think this is Melanie Kahn. I'm from Vancouver and involved in a number of different types of co-op activities, training, teaching, working, etc. And I think that the technological advances just in the last year around sharing information has been stupendous, and it's way, you know, it takes it way beyond academics, sharing information at events, right down to people in communities who are, just as the last speaker said, who are using all kinds of ways of communicating and then accessing information about co-ops, which was so hidden away from most people. But there's a lot of new interest that I see in different areas, not only coming from academic institutions, particularly communities who are entering the co-op sector or trying to make themselves more visible, whether they're immigrant groups or women. And I just don't want to see the research stop, and I'm really concerned about the holdup on research projects that's happening right now at for the research and knowledge grant proposals that I know there's been no movement on. And while it's good that research is still happening in universities, I think that that's an area that we need to address. So I don't know if there are people on the call who have more information about some of the delays in research proposals moving ahead, but it's definitely inhibiting some new and exciting projects for moving ahead and being able to be on those lists that we were looking at the beginning of the call.
Thank you very much, Melanie. We've got Réjean Laflamme here to respond.
Yes, Réjean Laflamme from CCC. And Melanie, we have the same problem because we also have submitted one research project and we are waiting for the last 8 or 9 months now. What we've been told by the Co-op Secretariat is that the projects have been selected, but ministers haven't signed off yet on those projects. So what we are recommending to people is to write to their MPs to let them know that they have submitted the projects and that they are waiting an answer from the government of Canada. That's what we can do at this moment.
So we've just got, we're just winding down now. We've got about 2 minutes left on the call. I'm very thankful to everyone who has shared today. I feel like we've got a lot more information to work with in establishing this. And I guess the last item that we wanted to end with was in thinking of developing a network that truly is not redundant to anything that's out there, but in fact streamlines what's already out there, honors the work that's happening in other websites and other networks, and brings it together in a place where, students, academics, co-op practitioners can all go to a central place and direct people who are new to the movement to a central place in order to find out about events and research and funding and be able to read and explore and collaborate. Through our discussions in many ways and with many people, it has been that looking at the models such as what the Rural Research Network is using in having a team of people that are working together in keeping this updated, that looks like the best option as far as making sure that we have a site that is evergreen and it's not something that's just established hot for about 3 months and then, suddenly we realize that people haven't posted on it for a year. So what we're recommending is that we establish a consortium of folks who are stakeholders in cooperative research and in the co-op movement to work together and find some volunteers and some people with some skill sets or who are particularly good at integrating information in a very quick way and build from there. So if there's anyone on the call today who is interested in being more hands-on in this project, or who thinks that they know someone, if you'd like to indicate at this time, that would be great. That's okay. There's a lot to digest today, but I'll just end by sharing, this is our website for the cooperativedifference.coop, and from there, you can link to me when you click on Contact Us. You can link to Erin Hancock and send me any research that you'd like to see added onto this list. And if you have any questions or comments in regards to building this online network or you want to stay involved, we're really thankful for everyone's contributions today. And we wish you a great day. And please stay connected to our website and through our newsletters for the progress of this network. Thank you very much.